She lost her job for helping Keanu Reeves the next day. Everything changed. Before we continue this story, let us know where you're watching from. If you enjoy stories like this, subscribe to the channel because tomorrow we have another special story for you. A cold wind swept through the bustling city streets as Emma tightened her jacket around herself. She was standing behind the counter of the high-end restaurant where she worked. Her shift almost over, the place was filled with wealthy customers laughing and clinking glasses, completely unaware of the struggle that people like her faced every day just to survive. Emma had always been kind-hearted, the type of person who would go out of her way to help someone in need. But tonight, that kindness was about to cost her everything. The restaurant doors swung open and in walked a man wearing a simple black hoodie jeans and a cap pulled low over his face. He wasn't flashy, didn't demand attention, but there was something familiar about him. Emma's eyes widened as she recognized him. It was Keanu Reeves. He quietly took a seat at a corner table, not drawing any attention to himself. Emma watched as a waitress hesitated before approaching him. She leaned down, whispered something, and then walked away, her expression uncomfortable. A moment later, the restaurant manager, Mr. Daniels, stormed out of his office, a fake smile plastered on his face. I'm sorry, sir, but we have a strict reservation-only policy," he said, his voice dripping with insincerity. "I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to leave." Keanu simply nodded, reaching into his pocket. "I understand, I'll just pay for something to go," before he could pull out his wallet. Mr. Daniels scoffed. "I don't think you understand. This isn't the kind of place where you can just walk in," and Emma couldn't take it anymore. She stepped forward. "I'm not causing any trouble," she said firmly. "If he wants to order, let him." Mr. Daniels shot her a sharp glare. Emma, stay out of this, but she didn't. She grabbed a menu and placed it in front of Keanu. "What would you like?" she asked, ignoring the tension in the air. Keanu gave her a small appreciative smile. Just a simple meal would be great. The restaurant had fallen silent. People were watching. Now Mr. Daniels's face turned red with anger. "That's it, you're done," he hissed. "You're fired." Emma's heart dropped. "What, you heard me? Get out for a moment." She stood there, frozen, as the reality of what had just happened sank in. She had just lost her job for doing what was right. She looked at Keanu, who met her gaze with an unreadable expression. Then, without another word, she took off her apron, threw it on the counter, and walked out of the restaurant, feeling the weight of the world crashing down on her. She had no idea that by tomorrow her entire life would change in a way she never expected. Emma walked through the empty streets, her mind racing. How could this happen? She had been working at that restaurant for 2 years, giving everything she had to a job that saw her as disposable. And for what? For standing up for someone. She reached her tiny apartment, a cramped space, barely big enough to call home. Her rent was due in a week. She had no savings, no backup plan lying on her bed. She stared at the ceiling, fighting back tears. Her phone buzzed a message from her best friend, Mia. Mia heard what happened. "Are you okay?" Emma sighed, typing back. "Emma, lost my job for trying to help someone. Feels like I did the right thing, but it still sucks," Mia replied instantly. "Mia, wait, you don't mean Keanu Reeves?" Emma hesitated. "Emma, yeah, why?" There was a long pause. Then Mia sent a screenshot of a social media post. Emma's eyes widened. It was a photo from the restaurant taken by one of the customers. The caption read, "Waitress fired for helping Keanu Reeves after a rude manager humiliates him." Disgusting. The comments were exploding. Who fires someone for being kind? This restaurant is done. Boycott them. Someone found this waitress. She deserves better. Emma's heart pounded. People were actually standing up for her. But before she could process it, her phone rang, a number she didn't recognize. She hesitated, then answered. "Hello," a calm, familiar voice. Responded Emma. "This is Keanu." She nearly dropped the phone. Emma sat up so fast, she nearly fell off her bed. Her heart was racing. Was this real? Keanu Reeves was calling her. "Hello," she stammered. There was a short chuckle on the other end, warm and reassuring. "I just wanted to check on you." Keanu said. "What happened back there?" "It wasn't fair." Emma swallowed hard. I appreciate that, but I'll be fine. I just didn't think standing up for someone would cost me my job." Keanu was silent for a moment. Then he said something that sent chills down her spine. "It won't cost you anything, Emma. In fact, it might be the best thing that ever happened to you." Before she could respond, another message popped up on her phone, this time from an unknown number. It was another screenshot, this time from a major news outlet. The headline read, "Waitress fired for defending Keanu Reeves. Hollywood star speaks out." Emma's jaw dropped. Wait, what did you do?" Keanu's voice remained calm. "I just told the truth, that you stood up for what was right." Emma scrolled down the article, her hands shaking. Keanu had made a public statement about the incident. "It's not about me." The article quoted him saying, "It's about how we treat people. This woman showed kindness and she was punished for it. That's not the world I want to live in." The restaurant's social media was in complete chaos. Thousands of people were posting negative reviews, demanding justice for Emma. Some were even calling for the manager to be fired. Her head was spinning. "This is insane. What happens now?" Keanu's voice was steady. "That depends on you. I have an idea, but I need to ask. Do you trust me?" Emma didn't even hesitate. "Yes." Keanu paused for a beat. Then he said, "Good, pack your bags. Your life is about to change." Emma's mind went blank for a second. "Wait, what? Pack my bags?" Keanu chuckled softly. "You'll see, just trust me." Her heart pounded in her chest. This had to be a dream. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. She had just lost her job, and now one of the biggest stars in the world was telling her to pack her bags. She wanted to ask 100 questions, but before she could, Keanu spoke again. "I'll send a car in the morning. Get some rest, Emma." And just like that, he hung up. Emma stared at her phone in disbelief. What just happened? She barely slept that night, her mind racing with possibilities. Was this real? What did Keanu have planned? Was this some kind of joke? Morning came faster than she expected. She had thrown a few things into a small suitcase, still unsure if this was actually happening. Then, at exactly 9 a.m., a sleek black car pulled up outside her tiny apartment. Her hands trembled as she stepped outside the driver. A well-dressed man with sunglasses stepped out and opened the door for her. "Miss Emma?" he asked politely. She nodded slowly. "Please have a seat." She slid into the back seat, her nerves on edge. The car pulled away, and as the city streets blurred past her, she realized something. This wasn't just some random meeting. Keanu had a plan. After about 30 minutes of driving, the car stopped in front of a massive modern building, the kind of place only the rich and powerful walked into. Emma stepped out, feeling completely out of place before she could question anything. The doors swung open, and standing there waiting for her was Keanu Reeves. He smiled. "Ready to change your life?" Emma took a shaky breath. I think so." Keanu nodded. "Good, because we have work to do." Emma followed Keanu through the grand glass doors, her heart hammering in her chest. The lobby was stunning. High ceilings, marble floors, and walls lined with artwork. This wasn't just any building, it meant something. She swallowed hard. "Keanu, what is this place?" He glanced at her with a knowing smile. "You'll see soon enough." They stepped into an elevator, and Keanu pressed the top floor. The doors slid shut, and silence filled the space. Emma was too nervous to speak. What could he possibly want with her? With a soft ding, the doors opened. Emma stepped out into a breathtaking office space with floor to ceiling windows overlooking the city. A group of well-dressed people turned to look at her, their faces full of curiosity. Keanu gestured toward them. "Emma, meet the team," she blinked. "Team what team?" he chuckled. "Mine." Emma stared at him, completely lost. "I don't understand." Keanu leaned against the desk, his expression turning serious. "After what happened last night, I started thinking, you didn't just lose a job, Emma. You lost a job for doing the right thing. That's not something that should be punished. It's something that should be rewarded." Her breath caught in her throat. "Keanu, I appreciate this." But he raised a hand, stopping her. "Hear me out. I have projects, charities, organizations, businesses, and I need people I can trust, people with integrity." He looked her straight in the eye. "People like you." Emma felt like the ground had just disappeared beneath her feet. "You're offering me a job." Keanu smiled. Not just a job, a purpose. She could barely process what was happening yesterday. She was a waitress, struggling to make ends meet. Today she was standing in an office with Keanu Reeves, being offered a chance to change her life. Emma took a shaky breath. "What would I be doing?" Keanu grinned. "Let's just say helping people the way you helped me." Her mind spun. Was she dreaming? Could she actually do this then? As if sensing her hesitation, Keanu added something that made her decision crystal clear. "You stood up for a stranger when you had nothing to gain. Imagine what you could do with the power to actually change lives." Emma's doubt melted away. She met his gaze and nodded. "I'm in." Keanu's smile widened. "And let's get started." The room erupted into quiet murmurs as Keanu led Emma toward a long glass conference table. People were already seated, their eyes filled with curiosity as they watched her. Emma could feel the weight of their stares. Just yesterday, she was a nobody fired from her job, struggling to survive. And now she was in a high-rise office, sitting across from some of the most influential people she had ever seen. Keanu took his seat at the head of the table. "All right, let's get straight to it." A woman with short blonde hair and sharp eyes leaned forward. "Is this her?" Keanu nodded. "Emma, the one who stood up when no one else did." The woman studied her for a moment, then smiled. "Impressive." Emma shifted uncomfortably. "I still don't really understand what I'm doing here." Who steepled his fingers. "Let me make it clear. You lost your job for doing the right thing. That shouldn't happen to anyone." His voice hardened slightly. "And unfortunately, it happens all the time." Emma listened intently as he continued. "This isn't just about you, Emma. There are countless people out there. Workers, single parents, struggling, students who face injustice every day. They get fired, mistreated, silenced, just because they don't have power." His eyes locked onto hers. "What if we could change that?" Emma's stomach flipped. How Keanu gestured around the table. "Everyone in this room is part of something bigger. We have resources, connections, and the ability to make things right." He leaned in. "I want you to be a part of that." Emma blinked me. Keanu nodded. "You know what it's like to be on the other side, to be powerless. That makes you the perfect person to help others like you." She glanced around the table. Some people were nodding in agreement. Others studied her, waiting to see what she would say. Her heart pounded. This was too much too fast. Could she really go from a waitress to whatever this was? Then Keanu said something that shattered her doubt. "Emma, you stepped up when you had nothing. Imagine what you could do when you actually have the power to make a difference." The room fell silent. Emma swallowed hard, then slowly she nodded. "I want to help." Keanu smiled, then welcome to the team. The meeting continued, and Emma listened as they laid out plans, helping wrongfully fired workers, exposing corrupt businesses, and funding legal aid for those who couldn't afford it. It was bigger than anything she had ever imagined. But just as she was starting to believe in this new life, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, an unknown number. Frowning, she hesitated, then answered. "Hello?" A cold, angry voice came through the line. "I don't know who you think you are, but you just made a very powerful enemy." Emma froze. Her grip tightened around the phone. "Who is this?" she asked, her voice steady. The voice chuckled. Dark. "Lie. Let's just say you should have stayed in your place. The line went dead." Emma slowly lowered the phone, her heart racing. She looked up at Keanu, her face pale. "Something's wrong," she whispered. Keanu's expression darkened. What happened? Emma took a deep breath, forcing herself to stay calm. "Someone doesn't want me helping you." The air in the room shifted. The saint had just changed, and Emma realized this wasn't just about her anymore. This was a fight. The room fell silent. Everyone could sense the shift. What started as an opportunity had just turned into a battle. Keanu leaned forward, his expression unreadable. "Emma," he said calmly, "tell me exactly what they said." Emma swallowed, replaying the voice in her head. They said, "I made a powerful enemy, and that I should have stayed in my place." Keanu's jaw tightened. He exchanged a glance with the blonde woman from earlier, who immediately pulled out her phone and started typing. Others in the room reacted too, some whispering to each other, others staring at Emma with a mix of concern and curiosity. Emma's hands trembled as she placed her phone on the table. "Who was that?" Keanu exhaled, his voice measured. "There are people who don't like what we do. They profit from keeping good people powerless." He paused, "and now you're on their radar." A shiver ran down Emma's spine. "But why me? I'm just—" She stopped herself. She wasn't just anything anymore. Keanu must have sensed her realization, because his voice softened, because you're proof that one person can make a difference, and that terrifies them. The blonde woman, still typing, rapidly looked up. "We need to find out who made that call. I'll run a trace." Keanu nodded. "Do it?" Then he turned back to Emma. "You have a choice." He said, "You can walk away now. No one would blame you, but if you stay, things might get dangerous." Emma clenched her fists her entire life. She had been pushed around by bosses, by society, by people who thought they could control her, just because she had no power. She wasn't that person anymore. Emma lifted her chin. "I'm not going anywhere." A small smile touched Keanu's lips. Good. Just then, the blonde woman's phone pinged. She checked the screen and her eyes darkened. "I found something," she said, looking up. "And Emma, you're not going to like it." Emma's stomach tightened. "What is it?" The woman turned the phone around, showing them the screen. A name flashed across it. Emma's eyes widened. No, that's not possible, because the number was connected to someone she knew. Her former manager, the same man who fired her. Emma felt her blood run cold. Keanu sat back, a knowing look in his eyes. Looks like this fight just got personal. Emma's hands tightened into fists. Her former manager, the same man who humiliated her, fired her, and made her feel worthless. He was behind this. Keanu studied her carefully. "Emma," he said, his voice calm but firm, "this isn't just about firing you anymore. He's trying to scare you into silence." Emma took a deep breath, steadying herself. The old her, the one who would have backed down, accepted defeat, was gone. This was bigger than just her. "What do we do?" she asked, looking Keanu straight in the eye. The blonde woman smirked. "Oh, I have a few ideas." Keanu chuckled. "I think it's time we show him that his power doesn't mean anything when the truth is on our side." The next morning, Emma woke up to a flood of notifications. Her story was everywhere. Headlines exploded across social media. Waitress fired for helping Keanu Reeves. Corrupt manager exposed. Keanu Reeves takes a stand against workplace injustice. Hero. Waitress fights back, and she's not alone. Emma sat up in bed, scrolling through the comments. Thousands of people were sharing their own stories, employees who had been mistreated, fired unfairly. Silenced, her inbox was filled with messages from strangers thanking her for speaking up, for giving them the courage to do the same. She wiped a tear from her cheek. This wasn't just about her anymore. Then her phone buzzed, a text from Keanu. "Keanu, check the news. Your old boss got what he deserved." Emma's heart pounded as she switched to the news, and there it was. Her former manager had been fired. The restaurant had been hit with so much backlash that the owners had no choice but to let him go. Emma let out a breathless laugh. Justice. Just then her phone rang. Keanu again. She picked up. So he said, his voice warm, "How does it feel to change the world?" Emma smiled, staring out at the rising sun. "It feels like just the beginning." If you enjoyed this story, we have many more that will warm your heart. Click the screen to explore more stories of hope, compassion, and resilience.